As Dream prepared to leave his kingdom, the Dreaming, in search of a rogue nightmare known as the Corinthian, he was approached by Lucien, who was concerned that he may not make it back. As powerful as he was in his own realm, dreams rarely survived in the waking world. Nightmares, on the other hand, seemed to thrive there. The Waking World, 1916. Whitecross, England. John Hathaway arrived at Fawney Rig in search of Roderick Burgess, referred to by many, including his own son, Alex, as the Magus. Guided by Alex, John made his way inside, stumbling upon some kind of ritualistic ceremony before being guided to the study by Sykes. Alex wondered if John had come to join the Order of Ancient Mysteries, but before he could reply, they were joined by Roderick, who came to the conclusion that John had reconsidered his offer. Admittedly, he had. John received a telegram learning that his son died when his destroyer sank. In this grief, Roderick and John were bonded, as Roderick recently lost his oldest son and greatest joy, Randall. With him, John brought the Magdalen Grimoire so that Roderick could perform the spell to summon Death, who he intended to force into resurrecting both of their sons. That night, the summoning ceremony began in Roderick's cellar, where the order congregated around a golden pentagram drawn on the ground. Berlin, Germany. The Corinthian had just killed a man when he was apprehended by Dream, who scolded him for killing mortals for pleasure in the waking realm. Corinthian questioned why they should confine their talents to humanity's sleeping mind when they were unstoppable in the waking realm. He pleaded with Dream to spare, though Dream could not allow his insubordinance to go unchecked and approached with a glowing red ruby to return Corinthian to the Dreaming. However, he was summoned away before he could fulfill his duty. With a coin made from stone, a knife from under the hills, the blood from out of his veins, a song he stole from dirt, and a feather pulled from an angel's wing, Roderick successfully summoned one of the Endless to his cellar and trapped it within a binding circle. With his prisoner unconscious and trapped, Roderick called Alex over to grab Dream's pouch full of sand and his ruby. Intrigued, Roderick snatched away Dream's cloak and a raven exited from underneath, fleeing the cellar and heading into the house. All that remained was Dream's helm, which Roderick confiscated as well, leaving him completely naked and exposed. London, England. Unbeknownst to Roderick, in trapping Dream, he had caused immeasurable damages to the Dreaming, as well as the waking realm. The following morning, there were sleepers who did not awaken. The sleepy sickness, as they called it, affected nearly 1 million men, women, and children in every city, village, and town in the world. Roderick received an unexpected visit from the Corinthian, who informed Magus that he didn't capture Death, rather it was Dream, who was locked away in his cellar. And these were only two of the Endless: Desire, Destiny, Despair, to name a few others. Corinthian explained that Dream's ruby, pouch, and helm could lend the owner an aspect of his power, such as extending their lifespan and allowing them to manipulate others. Corinthian simply sought to ensure that Dream never escaped, explaining that the binding circle wouldn't be enough, and advised Roderick to construct a spear of glass inside the circle to contain Dream's physical manifestation. Additionally, no one could be allowed to fall asleep in his presence, as he could escape through their dreams. Roderick questioned why Corinthian was so willing to help him, to which Corinthian explained that Dream was his maker and that he could take everything back should he ever get free. As one final warning, the Corinthian alerted Roderick that he was being watched by Dream's raven Jessamy. Now aware of who he was, Roderick entered the cellar, with Alex following close behind. The Magus explained that he was actually after Death so he could compel her to return his son back to life, who died in the Gallipoli campaign. Roderick hoped that Dream could fulfill this request, but he refused to even look at Roderick, let alone speak. Roderick promised to release Dream should he offer him something beneficial, but Dream remained unresponsive. So, in the meantime, Roderick intended to use Dream's jewel to his benefit. 1926. White Cross, England. 10 years later, Dream's ruby, sand, and helm brought Roderick and his followers youth and prosperity while the rest of the world suffered. After a light lashing from Sykes, Alex headed outside to instruct those waiting to get inside the house that there was no more room inside and to come back tomorrow. When they refused to leave, a young lady named Ethel Cripps came to his defense, claiming that much like his father, Alex had magic and could hex them should they remain on the premises. Once the crowd had dispersed, Ethel inquired if Alex could actually do magic and asked if he could get her inside to see the magus. The following morning, it was up to Alex to clean up the mess left behind from his father's gathering. However, when he stumbled across a couple guards discussing shift change, he volunteered to watch over Dream until day shift arrived. Alone in the house, Alex headed down into the cellar, where he asked Dream if he was all right in the glass sphere, realizing immediately after how silly the question was. Alex apologized on behalf of his father and asked if Dream could in fact bring his brother back. Should he comply, Alex claimed he would let Dream out. Unaware that his father stood in the doorway, Roderick dragged Alex upstairs and warned him against speaking to Dream ever again. He then noticed Jessamy outside the window and grabbed a shotgun, instructing Alex to kill the bird and prove his loyalty. Jessamy sneaked inside of Roderick's home and set the couch on fire with a match to provide a distraction, allowing her to make her way downstairs and attempt to free Dream. Separated by the glass sphere, Jessamy attempted to break Dream free, but she was killed instantly, and her blood splattered all across the sphere after being shot by Alex, who was immediately scolded by his father, fearing that he could have shattered the glass. 1926. London, England. Dream's imprisonment only furthered the world's misfortune. Ravaged by the disease named encephalitis lethargica, some begged for sleep that would not come. Others lived as perpetual sleepwalkers, whilst most slept without waking. While relaxing in the yard, Alex was joined by a young man named Paul, who asked if Alex ever read a book called Vile Bodies. He had not, nor did he have a chance to finish his conversation with Paul, rushing back inside the house after hearing a disturbance. After having narrowly avoided his father, Alex checked in on Ethel, who revealed that she was pregnant, but that Roderick wanted her to get rid of it, which had left her in tears. Alex attempted to comfort her, but she insisted that she is fine. However, that night, Ethel fled the estate. The following day, Sykes reported to Roderick that Ethel fled with the pouch, the helmet, the ruby, and the grimoire, as well as $200,000 in cash. Roderick instructed Sykes to find her immediately before heading down into the cellar to inform Dream that Ethel robbed him of his fortune, as well as Dream's vestments. He offered to release Dream so that he could retrieve his stolen items, but only if he first granted Roderick wealth, youth, and immortality. However, Morpheus refused to even acknowledge him. Alex attempted to calm his father, but Roderick then turned his frustrations on his son, swinging his cane at Alex, who not only dodged his father's attack, but shoved him back so forcefully that he hit his head on the sphere and died. Although, with his final breath, he exclaimed that Dream would never be free. Alex then looked over to Dream himself, nearly touching hands with him. The only thing separating them was the thick glass of the sphere. Alex headed to the garden to think. There, he was joined by Paul, who would then learn of the magus' death. Paul extended his condolences and grabbed Alex's hand to provide comfort. From this loss, new love was born between Alex and Paul. 9 months later, Ethel gave birth to a son. Her mother used to say that if she was good, a man would sprinkle sand in her eye and make all her dreams come true. But the Sandman wasn't coming, and moving forward, she and her son Johnny would have to make their own dreams come true. Alex headed down into the cellar to introduce Paul to Dream for the first time. Alex was willing to release Dream, but only if he promised not to harm them. However, much like before, Dream remained unresponsive. Many years later, a now elderly Alex visited Dream in the cellar for the final time, explaining that all he ever wanted was to be freed of Dream, who still, after 100 years trapped in the sphere, had refused to speak a single word. Paul joined them with Alex's wheelchair and pushed his lover back upstairs, breaking the seal around the sphere in the process. With the protection seal broken, Dream forced one of the guards to fall asleep, allowing him to gain access to the guard's mind and manipulate him into shooting the sphere, shattering the glass, thus releasing Dream. The guards drew their weapons and instructed him to open his hands. He complied and blew a handful of sand into both of their faces, rendering them both unconscious. Alex awakened from his sleep and went searching for Paul within the house. Instead, he came across a cat and followed it upstairs, only to discover that the cat was actually Dream, and that he managed to escape his prison of over a century. Alex attempted to apologize, claiming he didn't know the damage he and his father had inflicted on the world. For this, Alex's punishment was a gift, the gift of eternal sleep. The Corinthian quickly realized that Dream was free and out of his cage, though he himself was only just getting started and was still intent of reshaping the world in his image, after having cut out the eyes of his latest victim. With what little power he had, Morpheus returned to the Dreaming, where he was recovered by Lucien, who was in disbelief of his return after more than a century away. As they approached the palace gates, Lucien informed Dream that the realm and palace weren't as he left them. In fact, they were decaying. With Dream gone as long as he was, the realm began to crumble, and most of the residents were gone. Some went looking for him, while others thought he had abandoned them, as he wouldn't be the first Endless to do so. Dream insisted that wasn't the case and that he intended to bring everyone back. This is the first episode of Sandman. Hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe for more series. See you in next one.